I mean, our customers were huge customers.
So that's your license or your charge the transaction?
No, it was licensed.
Oh,
Right.
charge
And
transaction.
Well, we weren't
So-
at that point at that time.
So is it people still using this?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Because it sounds like it's artificial intelligence and it's not.
Well, in a way, but it
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was more
Keyword.
like, yeah,
It's not
keywords.
just
and
keyword,
it-
yeah.
Well, it went beyond that, because they would then link it to phrases, but it was like a hierarchical.
Database and keywords
right.
compare.
And, but it was fun to sell, I like to sell stuff that's fun for people to look at and see. Even what we're doing at Blackwatch Data, whenever they see, SAP, for instance, if you take a material master, and so you have a part, so you start off with a noun, it's a screw, right? And then you have attributes behind it, and it's stainless steel, right? And then it's 1 inch long, and how many ways can you say 1 inch?
Many.
Pardon?
No, many.
Well, quite a few. You can have one apostrophe, you can have the apostrophe in front if you're in Finland. You can have the word one spelled with a hyphen and inch, or you can have one without the hyphen. You know, and so you have all these different ways. Well, what it does, it generates part numbers. And so one of our customers has got a 1 inch screw 15,000 times in the system. There's 13 plants. And it's the same part. So, but they're not duplicates because the database, if you have the attributes, if you start off with stainless steel, but if you start off with 1 inch stainless steel as an attribute, you know, it becomes a different part. And so, you know, we go through and fix all that, making multiple passes of data, but, you know, it causes you not to invoice on SAP. You don't invoice, you have a serious problem. And SAP demands that your data be the way it's supposed to be, the way you blueprinted the system, the way you install SAP, you blueprint it, saying this is how it's going to run, here's all the data, here's the business process, and then you configure the software to match that business process. And if you give it data that's different, it doesn't do anything with it.
Yeah, see, you're talking about SAP, you process the structured data is much easier than reading email because it's unstructured.
Right.
So that's why I'm kind of impressed. You have to read the emails, kind of to figure out what it means.
But it's cool software because people start understanding. But a year ago when we started talking about it, people didn't understand what we were talking about. They knew that SAP installations went bad, but they didn't understand really why. And even people that have SAP don't understand why they fail. I have a friend that's a temporary CIO, that he's a SAP CIO that SAP puts him in places. And 5 years ago when I was at Per Se, you know, running the international division, he was in London, he worked for Gate Gourmet. And he kept saying, you know, we had a bad data load, bad data load. No thanks, I'm fine. And he had a bad data load. And I didn't understand what that meant. What he really meant is we can't run SAP, which meant he kept 700 extra employees for 7 months, kept the consultant company on site for an extra 7 months. You know, you're talking millions of dollars. And that's what we prevent. So that's what we do now.
So what happens 5 years after you left the pilot and Per Se? That 5 years, is that right? Did I catch right? The timeline? When the
Well, I was at Information Resources, Frontech,
Oh.
Amicus, then Per Se. So in 2003, the other thing that you get, you know, when you're around IT for a long time, and I think everybody knows this, is that you get to be with a group of people that are your friends. And I called this friend of mine who used to work for me at Pilot. He used to run Asia Pacific for me, and then I worked for him at this Frontech. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, oh, I'm doing this company. And I said, where are you? And he said, well, I'm in Atlanta. I said, I'm in Atlanta too. And he was president of Per Se Technologies. You know, so I go down and see him. 5 days later, I'm running international for Per Se. You know, so you know how that works. But and Per Se was not really fun. It was an old technology software. It was, parts of it, the products were written in Fortran, some kernels. I mean, it just, but it managed staffing at hospitals in 4 countries. Every hospital in the UK had it. And then we had a theater management system for managing the operating rooms. And those were the 2 things. And we were in every hospital in Australia, every hospital in New Zealand, every one in the UK, 20 in France, and 1 in Saudi Arabia. And so I managed that business and the upgrades and those SCs.
So are you still running some companies international operation or just otherwise for them?
Well, I've run international for Blackwatch Data.
Okay, still doing something.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The SAP.
That's the SAP company.
Okay.
And then I have the iNet Ready, that key company that's come alive
Okay.
out in California.
Okay.
So I have those 2 things going. Both of them came alive at the same time.
So also you have managed some Chinese business operations in China.
Well, they build our keys for us.
Oh, be the case
Yeah,
for
talk
us.
about your key. I think that's a kind
Oh,
of
okay. This is how you ask how things happen, right? I mentioned earlier to some of you that were talking to me, we had this web company. It's 10 years old. Back in 2000, I met this young guy that was a HTML developer, and he was out in La Jolla, California, and San Diego, and we made a lot of money because we hired interns from UC San Diego to write web pages for us, free interns. And we were getting $3,500 a page back then because everybody needed a website in a hurry. And by 2003, it had dropped off to just kind of a little company running 2 or 3 people by itself. And then a couple of years ago, my partner, Tim Fassé, said USB squib keys, these are, he could see something coming of those. And he's one of the early guys where I talk about when people say, what do you do with it? So he told me about it, and I went, okay. Sounds interesting, but not really, because I hadn't seen much for it. And about 3 months ago, we did a deal with this key. You plug this key into your USB port. There's nothing in here but a URL and a user ID.